kind of a matter where we challenge what you have been told and lean into what might just set you free. Today's guest, Tommy A. Kilpatrick, is not your average retiree, a teacher, farmer, author, and spiritual seeker. He's taken on one of the biggest systems of all, credit card debt issued by banks. After a personal financial collapse, Tommy walked away from convention, lived on farms, and filed federal lawsuits pro se, not to win in court, but to win back control. Buckle up. This episode might just rewire how you see debt, systems, and freedom itself. Welcome to the show, Tommy. It's an honor to have you.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I feel very welcome here. Thank you.
Mhm. So, Tommy, let's start with your story. You voluntarily became homeless and took a vow of poverty. What sparked such a radical life shift?
Well, I was an author of a book, and in 2004, I had received a infomercial contract, and so I was to be on the radio for about 6 months to test market the different strategies that the company had. And so I used my three credit cards to live on. And then about 6 months into it, the FTC came down hard on a company and one of the talents for having false statements in their book. So my contract got canceled, and I was promised about $100,000 a month that I'd be making. So $85,000 of credit card debt was not that big of a deal. Well, all of a sudden, when you have to pay for it, it became a big deal. So I turned into a little bit of a depression until I figured out that the banks did not have an invoice, so there is no debt. And because I didn't sign a promissory note, there is no loan. And fraud undoes all contracts. So I did not have any contractual agreement with the bank. So I ended up going into federal court in Los Angeles, and I filed three federal lawsuits. Now you can ask me if I won, which is, did I get a judgment and a jury trial? No, the judge threw my cases out. So then it sounds like I lost. Well, a month later, when I looked at my credit report, all three of those alleged credit card debts were gone off my credit report. So I did discover that the banks are committing a crime. And so when I pointed it out to them, they basically ran away. And so you really don't have a debt. So um, so to get into your question about what made this all happen is that I then had a charity, and I rebranded the charity to be a credit repair. And I found a lot of people that had debts. So I would write letters to the bank, and I was extremely successful of getting these people alleged debt to be erased. And but then some people didn't want, and then some people with a higher amount were sued in court, and some of them didn't want to represent themselves, so I hired attorneys. And that's where the corruption and the backstabbing and the whole disgust of the whole system got to the point where the wife said, "Get out and take the dog with you." And that's where I had an opportunity to feel poverty for the first time. And that's what I wanted to do. I took about poverty for 10 years. I wanted to feel what it was like to be hungry and not have a place to sleep. And I traveled across the United States. I was never dirty. I was never a drug addict, but that's kind of like the story of what happened to me.
That's so powerful. And looking back, do you feel that stripping away everything helped you see the truth about financial systems more clearly?
Oh, yes. The 10 years of not being involved in anything has given me a chance to think. And that's where if you say you have a debt and law is language and language is law, you have a debt and you have to pay for it. Now, we watch the television and we see a bank robber, and the news will say that they're alleged bank robber. So all I'm asking you and the audience to do is to add one word, and that would be the word alleged. Now, I am a doubting Thomas, so I don't want you to believe what I'm having to say. So I do have some links in your show notes, but I want you to send this podcast to your CPA. And this will be the first time they're even thought of this concept. Then they will agree with me that the bank does not have an invoice, so you don't have a debt with them. There was no promissory notes. The bank could never issue a loan. And three, fraud undoes all contracts. So you do not have a contractual agreement with the bank. So that's what I came up with, is that you can sue the banks, but then you got to know which credit card is the right one. Now, let me explain to you. There are true store issue credit card debts. Okay. This is like if you went to a tire store and you needed tires for your car, but you don't have the money, they might say to you, oh, why don't you apply for the in-store credit card? And if you get approved, we'll be able to put the tires on your car. And lo and behold, you get approved, they put tires in your car and you drive away without paying. But they have an invoice on that day. You took their tires and they spent the time and energy to put them on your car. So there's some service charges there. So they have a legitimate debt and you can't get out of that. What I'm saying is how to know the difference between a Walmart or an Amazon card and a true credit card is look on the back of the card. If on the back of the card it says issued by Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of India, Bank of London, if it says it's a bank, then that's a credit card that is not truly a credit card.
And it's rare to meet someone who has both walked through the fire and then challenged the very institutions that fueled it.
Oh, yes. Well, you see, you got to think about this, is that when you enter into a bank without money, you expect to come out with money. So you fill out a loan application. Now, let me ask your audience a question. If you are applying for a loan and you get turned down, do you still get the loan? Well, obviously not. So if you are approved of their application, then you come into the bank and you fill out loan documents. You have to prove that you can pay this loan back, and that's where you have evidence of income. And that's because banks could be taken into court as creditors, and they have to show the court that they did their due diligence, making sure that they didn't take advantage of this person, that they actually forced them to prove that they actually had an income to pay the loan back. The other thing you have is collateral. So if you don't pay it, the bank takes something away from you and they can sell it and make most or at least some of the money back that they loaned you. And that's like just proper business procedure. So you put up your house or your car, or if you had a personal loan, you put something of a value that the bank can take away. There's a credit report, and that would show your credit history, and your credit score determines the interest rate. But the last thing you sign is a promissory note. You have to promise to pay it back. And that's what they can take into court to show the judge that you promised to pay the loan back and you didn't. So that's the whole point of this, is all you have to do is write a letter to close your free checking account that's associated with this bank. And you might say, what checking account? Well, you see, banks advertise to get you as a client and a customer. So they offer you free stuff. Years ago, they offered here in America a free toaster or a wall clock. And one time I saw in a newspaper, the bank advertised, if you come in and deposit $25 and keep it there for 90 days, we will match it. So that's what I did. I took $25, put it in the account. I waited 91 days, went into the bank, closed the account, and took away $50. Now, here's a question I have for you. Did I rip off the bank? No. Did I steal from the bank? No. Is that immoral what I did? Absolutely not. It's the same thing as when the bank sent you a $500 credit card. They always use the word gave. So you applied for the card, but you never filled out any loan documents. You never signed anything that promised to pay them back. So when they gave you this card, they mailed it to you, or you picked it up from the bank, and they gave it to you. That's a gift card. So what did you do with your gift card? You went to a store and you bought a product. Well, when you're walking out with it, the person at the door is going to say, did you actually pay for this? And you can provide a receipt. So that receipt proves that you paid for the material. So you now own those goods and services. Now, are you going to get a statement at the end of the month from that store saying you owe them the money? No. Now, who paid for that? The bank did. Well, where'd the bank get the money from? It's from their advertising budget. So the bank has a budget that they're going to spend to get you as a customer. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. But this is a scam, what they do. So they send you a statement at the end of the month, and it makes it look like it's a bill. When you get a statement from your checking account, it's not a bill. It shows your beginning balance, your deposits, all the checks you wrote, or the debit cards you used, or fees that were taken out, or things that you actually had authorized to be removed from your account. And it shows your ending balance. Now, that is a true statement. When you get a statement from your credit card, it does the same thing. It shows you the charges. But the minute you wrote a check out, you're a good person, you thought it was a loan, so you wrote a check back to the bank. Well, that was the first time the bank could ever count your money. And remember, banks are only about loans. So when you take money and put it into a bank, you're basically loaning the money when you put it into your checking or your savings account. So this is the first time the bank ever received your money, and every subsequent purchase has been with your own money. This is the big fraud the banks are doing to people, is making them think they got a loan, which they never did, or they have a debt with the bank, which they never do. So what you're doing is you're putting a deposit in your account at the end of the month, and the next month you're spending it through your debit card. So it's disguised as a credit card. So let me just back it up again. It comes in the mail as a gift card. When you use the card and you send money to the bank, it now becomes a debit card. And that's how you access your money. So that's the way you can get out of this alleged debt, is to write a letter to the bank to close your checking account. It's a free checking account associated with that card. So I hope that can help your listeners that are dealing with this debt situation.
And that's both fascinating and a little unsettling. It makes us question how much of a debt is just conditioning.
If I understand it correctly, is that what the banks do is they make $23.04 on average on every alleged credit card account. So if the bank has 1 million customers, they're bringing in $23 million a month. And so what happens is that they have this huge amount of money come in, and it's about 1/4 of all their profits. So this is done illegally. This is done by fraud to make you think you have to pay for a checking account. So that's on average in America, it's $23.04. It might be different in other countries.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you sued three banks yourself without a lawyer. The cases were dismissed, yet the debts vanished. What's the real win here?
When you write a letter to the bank asking to close the account, they will obligingly close the account. And in the letter, you can explain the fraud that they've committed. And if you have a letter from your CPA, certified public accountant, that says that the bank does not have an invoice and they never issued a loan, then you can also have your attorney or someone who's in that category write a letter saying that the fraud has undoes any contract. So with those two letters, it's much more strongly worded that you can actually eliminate this alleged debt. So that's all you got to do is write a letter. And I have a book called Forgive and Forget: How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. And if you go to my email and ask for a free consultation, I will give you that book. It's about 6,000 rupees there in India. So that'll be a free book if you contact me. I'm going to help you out in eliminating your alleged debt.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And some might hear your story and think it's too risky or even reckless. What would you say to those who are skeptical or afraid to question financial authorities?
A very good question. And I appreciate that very much. And I say, don't believe me. There's some links in your show notes. So go to those links and you can read what is the truth is that the banks do not loan out other people's deposits to you because deposits are actually loans to the bank. So the bank cannot loan out other people's money. The other one is the link is from the Federal Reserve book, and it says in there that what banks do is they accept a promissory note, and what they do is they write numbers into your checking account. So that's how they create money out of thin air. Is you first have to sign a promissory note. Since you never did that with your credit card, you think it's a credit card, there was never any loan. So what you can do is being afraid of this is take this information, take my book and send it to your CPA and have them tell you I'm 100% accurate. And that's where you have that confidence that someone else is telling you that the bank does not have an invoice, so there can't be a debt. And two, since you never signed a promissory note, there is no loan. So then how does it all happen is that the bank is using their advertising budget to lure you in as a customer to then charge you $23.04 on average for a free checking account when you're actually using your own money to make all your purchases. It's just that you think that you're making a payment to the bank, or what you're doing is you're making a deposit, and that is actually a loan to the bank for your own use. So that's what I can do for the people who are scared. And on the other side of it, what else? What's the other option do you have? If you go to court and say you have a debt, you're sunk. You've admitted it, so you got to pay it. But all you have to do is ask alleged, and now it then makes the bank produce the evidence. And that's where that 10 years of me relaxing a little bit, thinking about other thoughts, that it came to me to file an injunction. And this is the real secret. What you want to do is notify the bank that if they do not remove this off your credit report, you could file this lawsuit. And what you're going to be doing is asking the court to stop the harassment. So if someone is bothering you, you can go to court and ask the court to make an injunction, which means stop this behavior of this other party. What you're forcing the bank to do is to come to court with evidence of an invoice or a certified copy of the promissory note. Since they have neither one, they'll be held in contempt of court. And the bank knows this. And so they're not going to go forward with this. So you can be rest assured that even though it sounds crazy, all you need to do is write a letter to the bank and ask them to close your checking account. It really is that simple.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And for listeners drowning in credit card debt and feeling powerless, what's the first step to reclaiming sovereignty over their finances?
Yes, that's a very good question. My first thing would be say, is it possible that you have been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed? If you answer in the affirmative, yes, it's possible, then I'm saying the bank has lied to you. And is that possible? I think it is. Now, if they continue to lie over and over again, then it becomes indoctrination. But here's the final thing is that when you don't question the bank and the bank's integrity, then you have become brainwashed. So if you don't want to be brainwashed and to not question anything, then that's what you do is you start the word alleged. And that's what I want to share with your audience is just start off with the word alleged. Make the bank prove that there's a debt. So you can stop these debt collectors bothering you by just asking them to provide the proof. And many times they have no proof, they have no evidence. And so they're basically committing a crime against you in the face of a debt collection. So you can resist this false, fraudulent belief that there are debts out there that you really don't have to pay. On the other side, there are legitimate credit card debt you have to pay. And that is done by a store, a merchant that has an invoice on the day you came in, you took the products, there was the taxes, there was the shipping, all the information's on the invoice about terms and conditions. So that's the way you can eliminate this, all these debts that you are drowning under. And then on the legitimate debts, what you do is you look at the highest interest rate and pay that one off first. Then you keep moving. So you want to work with your creditors, and that's all you need to do is to openly communicate. And all they want is a payment. If you give them a little bit now and each month, they'll be happy. At least you're making an effort and a commitment. And over a period of time, you'll be able to pay off your legitimate debt.
Absolutely. So, Tommy Kilpatrick isn't telling us what to do, he's showing us what's possible when we question everything. Debt might be real on paper, but sovereignty lives in the soul. So, here's to radical truth, quiet courage, and rewriting the story of power, one credit report at a time. This is Mindful.